Internet, so nice to see you, and welcome to this music theory talk today. So, it's a nice, bright Thursday morning for me. It may not be morning for you if you're in a different time zone, as usual, okay? And today I have a fantastically special guest. Before I introduce him, though, if you are watching right now and you are you're live on YouTube and Facebook, if you are anywhere, write in the comment or in the chat, write something, say hi. I want to hear, I want to see who's there. Okay, so say hi. So later I can say hi too. Okay, very good. So but let me introduce the guest. So when I teach, one of the main questions people ask me is, what do you think when you improvise? Okay, it's kind of improvising in this is this mysterious mental state when you create music out of nothing. Okay, and people are like, but are you thinking about the notes, the chords, the chord progression, the music? You're not thinking what is happening. Okay, so I have an answer myself. I have a few answers myself, but you know what? Since I know a person who specializes in that, okay, he specializes in teaching how to improvise. I thought, why don't I have him on a live stream so we can talk with him? So, without further ado, guys, let me introduce you to Mr. James Maxwell. Hello, James. How are you today?
Hello, Tommaso. Good to see you. Had to find the mute button. Good now. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Yeah, guys at home, we have a little bit of echo between me and James. So what we are doing is that we are, when the person talk, we are muting ourselves. So if there is a little bit of echo, sorry about that. We are trying our best, but we are mute button jockeys right now. Okay, but we're doing our best. So I see a lot of people in the chat, by the way. Okay, we have people from all over the world, as you can see, James. We have people from Pennsylvania, New York. What is this? York, Pennsylvania, Wales, UK, Germany, Manitoba, California, Sweden, Puerto Rico. There are some places where I want to be because it's much warmer than here. The places where I don't want to go, so I feel for you guys. But I mean, everybody is welcome. James, so I think I'll just give you the question hard and fast. Okay, what do you think when you're improvising?
It's a good question. It is a good question, and I will give it a best answer as I can. Now, what do we think about when we're improvising is not generally what most people think about when they're improvising. The first thing that you should be thinking about is not what notes do I play or how is this riff going to fit? It's how do I make whatever I'm playing over sound better? Because the purpose of whatever you're improvising here, it's to make the content, the music that you're playing over sound better. If you think about all the iconic songs of the day, Comfortably Numb or Stairway to Heaven or whatever, when the solo came in, whether the solo was improvised or written, it's a point. No nasty comments. You know what I'm saying. The purpose of that piece of music in the middle was to make the song do something, to climax, to bring it down, to do something. But your improvising is not supposed to just be, I'll put on this backing track and I will noodle some notes. So the first thing is to understand that your job is to not only sound good yourself, but to make whatever it is you are playing over sound better. And I'd like to give a little bit of an analogy because I do a lot of teaching and I know a lot of analogies because it helps people to understand how you could think about, well, when you're thinking about improvising, what are you thinking about? And you just say something like, well, I want it to sound better. But yeah, but what are you thinking about? Like what scales and what notes? You're like, well, I'm trying to make this music have more of a specific kind of feeling that will bring it to, yeah, but what notes are you playing? All right, these are all the things that go on in people's heads. So I'm going to give a couple analogies here about food. That's right, because it all comes back to food and golf. If you ask 3 people to tell you a story about food, you got a baby, myself, and a master chef, and you say, tell me about your experience with food. The baby's going to say, I like macaroni or ice cream or whatever. It's not going to get much deeper than that because the baby does not have any kind of depth of knowledge of the English language, so he can't really articulate what he wants to say. That would be like your physical skill. And he also doesn't have any real experiences with food except I eat food. It's about the end of it. Now, if you ask me about food, I could get a little bit deeper and say, I like pizza because when I was a kid on Sundays, we always ate pizza and it makes me feel nostalgic. And I just really like that because it brings me back to the old days. Or I hate fish because a long time ago I ate fish and right afterwards I get sick. So now my story's getting a little bit more interesting, but it's still not great. I have the advantage of language over the kid. I have the advantage of more experiences over the kid, but it's still, you'll get what you get. But then when you talk to a chef, a master chef who studied all over the world, who has experience upon experience of food, and you say, tell me about food, and he gets into this beautiful answer that he's just making up on the spot. He's improvising his words. However, he has studied food his whole life. He has eaten in all corners of the earth. And he can tell you the history of food. He can tell you which foods go together. He can tell you which wines go with food. He can tell you about the experience he had when he was in the outback and he had this special kind of food and this happened and that happened. Now, we're all just improvising our answers when you ask us. But because we have had far different experiences about the topic, our answers are going to be completely different. And it's the command of the language and your experiences with what you're speaking of. And guitar, that would be, well, how much have you improvised and how much have you studied it? Have you sat there and noodled? Have you just grabbed your guitar and play some A minor scales over an A minor backing track? Or have you said to yourself, hey, I am trying to be a better improviser. These are the steps that I shall go through, which we'll go through in a few. But it's not just making things up. That's you could give anyone a guitar and say, here's a scale, go for it. But that's not going to be enough. We need actual experiences and we need a system in order to be good at that.
The point I want to underline here, because it's very important, is that James just explained that every one of us already improvises every day in real life, every time we have a conversation. Okay? So when you ask us, what do you think when you improvise? Imagine what you are thinking when you are improvising a conversation. First of all, it's really hard to make an introspection in that moment. And second, even if you can describe it, the description is going to be super long and complex because it depends on the conversation you were having, what you were talking about, who you were talking about, and all this kind of thing. And it's probably going to make it look very complex. But improvising a conversation is something you do every day in real life, and it is not that complex. So the important point here is talking about improvisation, it's going to make it sound very complex. Remember that, because when you actually do it, it's way, way, way simpler than that. Okay? Way simpler, more meaningful, and you have more elements to work with. Okay? Exactly. If I ask you to talk about a topic you know and ask you to talk about a topic you don't know, it's a completely different thing. Right? If I'm asking you to improvise on music that you're familiar with, on a backing track and scale you're familiar with, and versus improvising with something that you're not familiar with a scale you're not familiar with, in a style you're not familiar with, those are two completely different situations, okay? And the same word improvising applies to both, but you can realize that since it's so different, the description is not the same, the experience is not the same. Okay, so let's keep all these in mind because it's important. Okay, and then I'll let James go on and finish what he was saying.
That's right. It is very important to remember that this topic does not have to be difficult. Improvisation, improvising any musical line, it really just comes down to a few main components. Like, number one, do I have the right notes? Because if you don't have the right notes, it's over right at that point in time. Now, finding the right notes is not incredibly hard. If you're playing an A minor, play an A minor scale. To my knowledge, I think A minor is one of the keys that exist, and there's another key, but I'm not sure what that key is. But A minor definitely exists, so we'll be talking about A minor. Now, when you have the right notes, the next thing you have to think about is rhythm. Rhythm is a very simple thing. It is not something that you have to make into a complex issue. Rhythm is nothing more than a group of notes. If you don't know how to create a rhythm, it's as simple as this. I have a rhythm. If you have a set of notes like this, here's my A minor scale because that's the key. And you're using those notes just simply, if you're playing without any kind of consistent rhythms, it's nonsense. You have no idea where I'm at in the music. You have no idea what I'm playing over. It's just nonsense. A simple step is first just adding any kind of rhythmic phrase. That 3-note thing that we did, just adding that. 2, 3, 4. Automatically will make it sound more like you know what you're doing. Any short phrase that has length after the last note. If you're just playing a bunch of small groups of notes, that will not help you either. Think about breathing. When you're speaking, you need to breathe. When you're playing, you need to breathe. Play a few notes, let it sit. You get two benefits from this. One is, if you let it sit, you have a better sounding phrase. Second, if you practice doing this, letting notes sit when you're done, if you land on a real dog of a note, something that sounds bad, then you're forced to sit with that note until you start your next phrase. This will force you to hit better notes. Do this enough times, it gets pretty annoying after a while. So you got to come up with better phrases there. So what I found generally, there's a third topic too, which was ornaments. Just like you add ornaments to a tree to dress it up, adding ornaments to any of your notes will automatically make it sound more professional. You think about it, this is my favorite example to do. Think about something as simple as a slide. If I take this and I go, and say, how many notes did I play? And you'll say, I don't know. Unless there was an engineer in the audience, he said, 16. But if I add just a slide, just that one little thing accents that note so hard that you can't help but pay attention to it. So going back to our earlier example of playing just a few notes, adding a slide at the beginning of each set will automatically start to make it a more musical sounding phrase. There's nothing going on here that is tricky or complex or at all difficult. You could take the smallest set of notes and apply this concept and create a nice sounding phrase. So the main components are the right notes, then having some sort of rhythm, then adding some sort of ornament to it to make it sound nicer. Yes. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Mr. James?
And none of this is complex. None of this is complex. Okay, because people are like, yeah, but so you need to know all the scales and a lot of rhythm and I'm a complete master of all the ornament. No, you need one scale. Okay, you need one rhythm. Okay, the rest you can go by ear because rhythm is pretty intuitive once you get it. Okay, and you need a couple of ornaments. Okay, so if your vibrato is not great, use something else. Use a slide or something. I mean, I'm not saying that you should not study everything and get better, but the thing, you can start improvising much sooner than you think. Okay, with just a few tricks. Okay, so the sooner you start improvising, the sooner, even if you just know 3 elements, the better it is for you. Okay, don't wait to learn all the possible scales to start improvising. Okay, the moment you learn something, improvise with that. So, yeah, that's the thing. Because James is perfectly right. Oh, I'm very loud compared to you, apparently. So let me go down in volume and let me raise you a little bit. Okay, good. Thank you for everybody who wrote the comment. Let me know if the difference is still big. Okay, because we are playing it by ear, literally. Okay, so, but okay, so what James is saying is good and complete. Okay, I just want to make sure that you guys don't have the impression that it's complex, because James is talking about very, very simple things. Okay, I mean, in many examples, and you can see it, but there is always this impression that when an expert talks, it's like he's talking about super complex things, but no, those are not complex things. Okay, go on ahead, James. I know you have much more to say, so go on ahead.
I also like to say, anytime you get advice from someone named Metal Puppet, you'd better take it. That's the guy who helped us out with the volume. I like that name. Very good. So, as we're saying about keeping things simple, it is really important. So I teach an incredible amount of students, been doing it a great deal of years, and the things that come up are so consistent. So when you think about these items, these are not specific to you. Like when you're thinking about, well, I think I need more scales, or I think I need more this or more that. I'm having problem X, Y, and Z. None of this is specific to you. I mean, all week long, all these people coming in, it is the same general issues all the time. And here's the great thing about it is, if you're starting off from day one improvising, the principles to someone who's at a very advanced level are the same. The principles stay the same throughout every level that you're at. So talk about how to start, for instance. When people are generally coming to me and asking about how to be better at these types of things, they're usually they've been looking through all these different scales that they need, all of these different techniques they need. So-and-so uses this kind of pick. Will it help if I wear the guitar behind my head? All kinds of just crazy things that happen. What needs to happen is this. Have a very simple plan. Now, I'll give you an example here. I use something like this that I have. You don't have to be able to read it. All you have to see is that it exists. It has beats 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I put little X's there that say, hey, play on these rhythms. Because when people start improvising, they often think whatever I play is not good enough. If I play a simple sound, it's not good enough because I just came up with it and I'm a beginner and I don't think that I'm very good. What needs to happen is you start off with a very simple idea and you have to keep continuously developing it. I'll give you an example here. If I play a simple scale thing like, oh, turn my guitar on, has a volume knob. That is very simple. If I start with just this one idea and play over some sort of A minor loop or something, turn it off. There we go. Couldn't figure out how to turn it off. If I just keep doing that same thing over and over and over again, it's going to get very, very monotonous. So the first thing is we start to make variations on what we're playing. If the first notes are, think, all right, I have 3 notes. What can I do? Oh, I will slide the first note. Well, that made it cooler. All right, so now I have a new idea. I can slide that note. You know what? Maybe I'll do a slide and a pull off, because that will change it, how it sounds as well. Throw another slide in there. It's the same 3 notes. Will sound very different in how we play it. So the first thing is take a very simple idea and just keep working it until you play something that you like. If you remember from our example about speech, the better you are at commanding the English language or whatever language you speak, the easier it is for you to speak about any specific topic. If you are not used to doing a slide into a pull-off, that's never going to happen while you're improvising. So that's just thrown out. It will never happen as you're playing. So you have to develop this little list of things that are comfortable for you to do. When I develop these lists, I just take a little sheet of paper and I write down the 5 big ones, like slide, bend, hammer-on, pull-off, vibrato. And then just start combining them together. Say, I will do a slide into a pull-off and another slide. And make that work. Slide, pull-off into another slide. I'll go higher. By continuously, or by the way, a big point about what I just said is this. If you are just simply playing something and then writing down what you did because you liked it, you're only keeping track of things you can already do. That's not what we want. We want you to be able to develop new ideas. So this requires you to do things you do not already do.
Okay, that's super important. That's incredibly important, okay? The whole point of writing down things, okay, is to do new things. If you just play, no matter how complex it is, if you play something and then you write it down, you've learned nothing. Okay, you've learned nothing. Your hands are doing something that they could already do. You first write down what you want to do in terms of phrasing, and then you do it. Okay, the point of writing it down is that you can think about these things without being constrained by what you think you can do. Okay, because your hand at a certain point are automatic. There are some things you know how to do, and they go there every time. You play with your hands, not with your heart or with your brain, okay? Which, I mean, it's not bad per se. It means your hands are learning something, but you have to pay attention to not become prisoner of that. So you write down, you make a plan. And again, it's a plan. It's 3 notes, okay? And you decide what phrasing to put on each one of them, and you may not put any phrasing on some notes. I mean, for all I know, you can just decide to do, of the 3 notes, you do 1 note with a slide and the other 2 with nothing. Or or okay, and that would be it. But you write it down first. You first decide what to do. You write it down, which that keeps you honest, okay? Then you play it, and you try to play what's written on paper. I mean, this point is so absolutely important because every time I have similar exercises, and every time I explain these, okay, there are a few students who just write it afterwards, no matter how many times I said it, okay? Take a step back, first write, then play, okay? It's foreign to the normal way of thinking. It's strange, especially for us guitar players that are so used to grab the instrument and start making music, okay? I know this is strange, but there is so much value in this little tip and so much possibility for improvement. You have no idea. You do 10 minutes, 15 minutes of this every day. In 2 weeks, you play in a completely different way. Anyway, sorry for interrupting. It was too important.
I like when you interrupt. You always have good points to say. Plus, I can ramble and talk fast. Well, you talk fast. What am I talking about talking fast? I have the king of speed talking.
I'm a speech shredder. You have more soul in the way you talk. It's because I'm used to the Italian rhythm, and English words are much shorter than Italian. So, but I just have the same syllable rate. Okay, so it sounds. But I'm a fast talker in Italian too. So anyway. Go ahead.
I shall. So now let's take that idea that Tommaso has said a moment ago about writing it down. Now, you have a simple idea. Oh, quick point before we start this segment. Don't be afraid to sound bad. When you're playing and you're coming up with things, you have permission to suck. You have permission to be terrible. Because when you're coming up with ideas, you're not going to come up with gold every single time. If that were the case, then we would all be phenomenal at all things all the time. So do not be afraid to sound bad. I'm going to sound bad today. I guarantee it. I'm very good at sounding bad, but I'm also very good at not caring about it just because I've done it so much as developing ideas. You take the idea that Tommaso just said a moment ago. And he says, we're writing it down and a slide pull-off thing. Once we take that and you have your slide pull-off, you're not going to just leave it there. You're going to set yourself up. I'll put that loop back on if I can do it correctly. There, it's a nice calm loop. And then you do it. You do it a lot. You get the groove out. Start everything with a slide for a while. Continuously slide, pull off. By doing the same action over and over and over again, now it becomes part of your playing. If you just come up with an idea and just leave it there, that's where it's going to be, on that piece of paper. So the point of doing it is to make it a natural part of your playing. Much as in school you are learning new vocabulary words, and they say, hey, here's your word of the day. Now go out and use it so it becomes part of your speech patterns. Now, if you don't use these things, they will never become natural, and that's what you need. If you play that little slide pull-off deal and you say, hey, that sounds like this feeling to you. Now, as you're improvising and in your mind you're saying, this is a very smooth part, and I really want to have an emotional kind of a feel here. I will do that thing that creates that emotional response that I have learned and done 5 million times, so I don't even have to think about it. Here's a good point about that. As I'm playing these notes in A minor, there's at no point that I'm thinking I'm playing notes in A minor. That's just, those are the notes that we play, so I don't even have to think about them. Now, the more things we can make like that, the better off we will be. So, big points here. Number one, don't be afraid to sound bad as you're doing it. Another one, write it down. Write down what you're doing before you play it. Write down, you don't have to be able to do music, right? Fret 5, 8, 10. And then write, without even playing it, right? I will bend the second note. I will bend the third note. And then commit to doing it. Because when you start off doing some of these things, if you say, I will do a slide into a bend. If you're not used to doing a slide and bending it, it's not going to sound very good at first. So you'll just go, I can't do that. I'll practice something else that I'm good at. So you have to get good at doing it. And you put distortion on that slide and a bend, it's so much different than just hearing, that's a good sound and it should be used, but sometimes you need that. See, you get excited just doing it. Makes me feel good. So once you get used to doing those things and they're part of your vocabulary, now we move on to a new thing and repeat the process. While you're doing these, I've seen people come to me with just maps of 75 note, actually, really, realistically, like 15 or 17 note segments. This is way too much. No, there's too much to do. You go 2 notes, 3 notes, 4 notes, maybe 5. But if you're going to do 5 notes, I even talk about doing 5 notes as you're not playing 5 notes. You're playing a group of 3 notes and then a group of 2 notes. You are not playing 5 notes. You're playing 2 groups of notes. The first group, I'll do that thing to. The second group of 3 notes, I will go bend, slide, bend. I don't know. Bend, slide, bend. That was cool, by the way. So, probably the average human just picking up a guitar does not bend a note, slide it, and then bend it again, slide it again, pull. These are not complex ideas, but stringing together ornaments like this, integrating ornaments, stringing them together, call it whatever you want to call it. It is so much more expressive than any sets of notes you could just play. So, that was not very good, obviously. But you start stringing together ornaments. Now you've got a much more expressive feel, and that's what we want.
The point here is that it's much better to play in hard mode, okay? Imagine that is a video game, okay? Playing it in easy mode is just playing a note, then go to the next note, then go to the next note, then go to the next note. Okay? It's better to play just 3 notes, but in hard mode, meaning that you decide what to do on those notes, and you, or 3 or 4, whatever, but you make them sound the way you want. Okay, you decide that's a bend, that's a slide, that's a vibrato, whatever, and you make it happen. And like you said, you're gonna sound bad. Okay, that's why we practice in the safety of our rooms, in the safety of our bedrooms, okay, with nobody listening, okay, with our headphones on and nobody listening, because you're gonna sound bad. It's gonna happen. But the point is that you have 2 choices. You can sound bad in your bedroom, or you can sound bad on the stage. Okay. Of course, at this point, people are taking those last words and saying all the double entendre in that. But anyway, no problem. Okay? I think you can sound bad when you practice, or you can sound bad when you play with other people. And I know I prefer to sound bad when I'm practicing. So personally, I search for it, I embrace it, I do it, I sound bad. If I have 1 hour of practice, I suck for 45 minutes. Okay, and that's great. Because then when I get to the 15 minutes, I sound good, and then it becomes more permanent, more reliable, more consistent. I can take it out at will. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is nobody can do everything. Okay, so in a sense, you find your favorite techniques, the one that sound more like you, the one you prefer doing, the one that feels better and sound better, and then you deepen your knowledge of those until you can do them without even thinking, and you know where they sound good. There is one thing that James keeps doing, but he's not talking about. Maybe he's going to talk about this later, but I want to put a highlight of that, because when he was playing the little improvisation exercise before, and there was something he was doing that for me made the exercise, which is dynamic. Okay, meaning that he's not playing, even if he's playing 3 notes, he's not playing them at the same volume. What he's doing typically at the first note, and again, only for this exercise, he was playing the first note louder and then gradually going down dynamic. Okay, so you can hear the first note gets an accent, and then it goes down in volume. That's not the only possible plan. You can do whatever you want, but the thing is, the notes are not all the same. Okay, you don't play all. I mean, imagine when you are speaking. Imagine if you're speaking, putting no accent in every word, and everything is at exactly the same speed and the same level and the same pitch all the time. It's gonna be incredibly boring. I'm sounding very weird right now. I'm right. I mean, it's like, what the heck, right? So you don't want to sound this way. So you put in some accents, some louder note, some quiet note. Okay, you take some rest. Then you say a lot of words or note one after another in a moment. Then you take a rest. Okay, it's not all the same. It's not all the same. So, and when James is going to play the next example, you're going to hear it again and again and again. He's doing it so much, it became second nature to him. Okay, but pay attention to this. It's important. Go on ahead, James.
I remember the exact moment in my life where that happened, where I realized that dynamics were a thing, because I was at a music store. I was just a teenager and I was new to guitar, and a friend of mine was there in the music store, and he played this really cool riff, and I said, "What is that riff?" And he said, "What riff?" I said, "You just played that cool thing. It sounded good. I liked it." And I'm trying to, like, we're going back and forth, and he's just saying, "I don't know what I played. I have no idea. I just played a scale." And this is where it really struck me for the first time, because instead of playing, he played totally different than this. Say you can go the exact same speed. And it changes everything. Same speed, same notes, changes everything. Dynamics are insanely important. Dynamics are important, not just loud notes, but like Tommaso was saying about quiet notes. If I'm telling you something and then I say, "And then you'll never believe what happened next," I've got your attention because I'm speaking at a relatively excited volume as I do. So if I'm doing this and I change to a very quiet tone and I'm about to tell you something, all of a sudden what I'm about to say next is very important because I've got your attention. If my kid is running out to the road, I'm not going to say, "Hey, you got to stop there. No, there's cars coming. You're going to get hurt." I go, "Hey." That gets the point across. I don't need 100 words. I need to yell at him to get his attention. So generally, when you're thinking about playing over periods of time, which I need to talk about, you have to have a dynamic structure, not only overall with your phrase, but within the phrase too. Don't make what I just said complicated. It means play some notes loud, play some notes quiet. It goes like this: quiet note, loud note. I will play 2 loud notes and 1 note quiet. I'm not trying to play anything good. I'm just going loud, loud, quiet, loud, loud, quiet, loud, loud, quiet, 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 loud. You're trying to, when you're doing something like that, when you're trying to work on dynamics, for instance, make that practice time about dynamics. Don't make it about until later when you're integrating everything together. When you're working on a new thing, make it solely about that thing. Don't say, I'm going to play over this backing track that has a minor blues and I'm going to follow the chord changes and also use dynamics. No, first, get your dynamics together, completely independent of everything else. Not trying to sound good, not thinking about anything except for changing the volumes. Okay, so now we have that idea. Whatever you're doing, do it in isolation, a whole bunch, not trying to sound like you're doing great phrases. Then, when it becomes comfortable, or there's 2 ways to do this. Both are good. First way is when it becomes comfortable, then integrate it into your playing with a backing track, which case at this point, you still will not sound good doing it yet because you just got good at doing dynamics. So why would you think you could all of a sudden do dynamics in the context of playing over this song? Then you learn how to play it with the song. And then maybe live. You know, there's different levels of your playing. So when you're doing any one of these items you have, I've got good at it, I think I will play it with the music. Or, I'm tired of doing this, I think I'll play with the music. In that case, that's totally great too. It's not like we're saying you have to become great at this item, then and only then may you proceed to step 2. No, it's guitar. It's fun. This is what you chose to do for fun. If you're an adult, you have jobs, you have kids, you have things you're doing, and this is the fun thing you're doing. Don't make it stressful. So, when you get good, move on. When you don't get good but want to goof around, move on. Noodling is a great fun thing given us by the guitar gods. Noodle all you want, but then set aside a little bit of time to focus on getting better at specific items as well. Yes, so I do want to get into this topic as well, because when we're improvising a lot, we put on a backing track. They're usually 5-10 minutes long, and we just go for it. And we play, and within just 10 seconds, you start repeating yourself, probably. Within 30 seconds, you're definitely repeating yourself. By a couple minutes, you're bored out of your mind. So you don't want to feel that way, and you don't have to feel that way. Here's how you fix it. You don't play over a 5-minute backing track. You have a 5-minute backing track. Let's say it's a blues track, because very easy to do this in a blues context. Blues is 12 bars usually. Every single time that 12-bar phrase comes around, every time it restarts, you restart. You start a completely new thing. So when it comes in and it's your blues groove of whatever it is, sounds more like the Tubes than blues. All right. But when you're playing and you start your solo, it's 2, 3. Now, the next time it comes around, it's a new solo for you. You put yourself in the mindset of, I am now recording a solo for a different guy's album. I am now recording something for a live stream. A good mental thing to do to get you in the right mindset for writing things well while you're improvising is to picture that you are being recorded for an album, or that this is being streamed live on YouTube. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, nobody wants that. Nobody's hiring you to do that. But if it comes up, something as simple as 3, 4. All right, now we've got an idea that we can build off of. So don't play over a 5-minute backing track continuously. Break it up. You can even break it up into tiny little segments, like every 2 measures, I will start a new idea. 2, 3, 4. Oh, I use the same rhythm. I'd better try a new rhythm. 3, 4. I didn't use any weird notes. Whatever you can do to keep the momentum going. You have to not just play continuously, because I guarantee it will turn into noodling. Someone wrote, think of it as a paragraph, and this is true. You have sentences and you have a paragraph. That was a very good comment, and I thank you for that, because that is what you're doing. If you have a bunch of nonsensical sentences put together, then the whole will not make sense. But if you have related phrases, then you get a paragraph, and people like talking to you. If you have that big, long backing track, you change the way that you think about playing. If I say to Tommaso, I need you to play for me on this song, the first thing he will say, besides what key is it in maybe, is how long? How long do I have to play? Because if he has 4 bars to play, he's going to play totally different than if he has 34 bars to play. When you're playing 34 bars, you have to build. You have to construct it so it doesn't get boring by the end of it. If you have 4, go in there. He knows if he's got 4 bars to make a statement, he can't come in. It would not work. He's got to come in sounding pretty strong right from the get-go.
Exactly. And the context matters a lot. Okay. And people tell me, I think the same is true for you, James. And people ask you, how do you decide what to play when you improvise? Well, let's list the things we have. What key are we in? What's the speed of the song, so the tempo, the meter? How long is the solo I need or want to play? What comes before? What comes after? What is appropriate? What kind of sound do I have? What techniques do I want to use? What is the style? I mean, you could write a whole essay on all this. Just, okay, that's what I want to actually say in this solo. You go in, and if you know all those things, then suddenly you don't have all those thousands of choices, because some choices are already made for you, which is great. I love when this happens, okay? Because, like I say, if you have 4 bars, you can't really start. Oh my, a bar and a half is gone. I have no more time to say anything, okay? You need to start a bit more punchier, just to give that thing, okay? You have only 4 bars. Make them count, okay? But then again, maybe those 4 bars need to be really quiet too. So, okay, so it's again, everything else being the same, but it's never the same. So that's why it's important. I mean, if you go in a studio and record something that they ask you to go in a studio, or if you're playing live with a band, you need to communicate with those people, okay? I mean, unless it's your project, you do whatever you want, but still you need to have an idea of what you're doing. if you play on somebody else's project or they pay you to play on something, but there is a studio live, you have to know who's the boss and ask them what they want. Okay, that's just what we do, and they tell you what they want, and this really helps essentially. Okay, and help make everything else better. So you see, that's an important point. It's never you improvise with no context. It's never there is this improvisation in the middle of nowhere. Okay, it's always the improvisation has a specific context: the backing track, the key, the tempo, the energy of the song, the dynamic, all these. Take those things into account. This is what when musician will say, just play appropriately. But appropriately means nothing, right? So that's what they mean when they say that. Okay, think about the context. See what elements you have already.
So when people talk about, they say, what should I be practicing or what should I be focusing on as, to get started? This is really a simple question because you could put on whatever kind of track of music that you'd like to. And generally, the first thing that you're stuck on, that's a good place to start. If you're having trouble, whatever the thing that you need to think about the most, this is the thing that you've got to get deep into studying first. So it could be as simple as the notes you're playing don't sound good or the way that you want them to. Well, the first thing on your list is figure out which notes sound good to you. And the first answer is always really simple, where you're saying, oh, we're playing an A minor, play a A minor pentatonic scale. But when people say they're beyond that, they can play A minor scale, but they want things that are more emotional sounding to them. What are the notes that are more emotional sounding? Well, if you have something like, I just made an A sound, so hopefully that comes through. Different notes sound different over the A notes. So if you have an A over an A, it sounds very, very cool. If you play a B over an A, much more mysterious. That's my favorite. If you learn the notes that give you a particular feeling, then you're able to use them and create tension when you need it. I did that for you. I know he likes that note. Okay, so, but I know that notes by themselves, they don't have character. Like an A note has no character. An A note only has a character when it's combined with a different note. So this is called intervals, the function of the note. You know the function of a note, then you can create that sound whenever you want. By the way, happy birthday, Cheryl. I see it as your birthday. Very well done. Also, we are speaking about the things that you need to think about or train on are the first things that you need to think about while you're improvising. If you keep playing every single phrase and it's always starting on beat one, it's always ending on beat one, this is where you begin training. Whatever the thing is that is really irritating you, don't just feel like, I just start on this, everything I play sounds the same. The reason it sounds the same is usually not your note choices. It's usually very monotonous rhythms, like you're always playing the same set of eighth notes, or you're always starting on the same beat. If I recorded you for 30 seconds playing, how many times would you have started and ended on the same beats? So this is very easy to take care of. You just take a piece of paper and write down 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and choose some beats that are not 1 and put X's next to them. And then you work on that for a while where you're only playing on, starting on the and of 3 or something. For God's sakes, do not make it hard. If you're always starting on beat 1, begin by starting on beat 2. Don't start on the of 4. Make it simple. Say, start on beat 2 a bunch of times. And then work on ending on beat 2, ending your phrase on beat 2. It will not be natural because as you were playing this whole time, you had this issue of constantly playing the same rhythms and the same beats. So why would it be natural? So write on a piece of paper, put X's. If you have trouble even doing that and figuring out how to come up with rhythms, because with my students, this is a big issue, is coming up with rhythms. You write the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on a piece of paper, and then you just tap. Say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's already relic guitar, it's okay. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 1 and 2. That's already a cooler rhythm than anything I played up to this point. So that was just because I picked a couple random beats to play on and do it for a while. Then you combine that with another rhythm that you've created. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. I don't remember what I played earlier, so just picture that was really good. We'll fix it in editing. It's not live. I already said I'm good at not sounding good.
It's a live streaming. There's no editing. Fix it in post-production. In post-production, I'm gonna go take this down from YouTube, okay? Pretend it's an outage and change, and we punch in those notes, okay? Don't worry, James. Everything is okay. Very good, guys. So, I'll stay here for another 2 hours with James. Okay, I know, because I mean, this is fun, and the guy every time he opens his mouth, it's just gold coming out. So okay, so but we have to wrap it up. So guys, you've heard James, you know what he has to say. If you want to know more about him and if you want to learn something from him, James has a Facebook page. You find the link on the description of the YouTube video or in the comment of the Facebook video. And if you don't find it, write a comment, I'll write it for you. The link is facebook.com/guitar improvisation lessons. Okay, that's a single word. So facebook.com/guitar improvisation lessons. Okay, so just go and I love this comment, by the way. We know who she is now. That's his wife. Anyway, so you just go there and you can get to know more about James and what he does. And I mean, as you can see, there's a lot about that. If you want to know more about improvisation too, I also have something for you guys, and it's these. These are 18 tips for making your pentatonic solo sound professional. So here we assume, and by the way, that's a completely free ebook, okay? Completely free, no string attached. We are assuming you're using pentatonic to improvise. There are 18 tips to make it sound good. And yes, we talk about rhythm. Yes, we talk about dynamics, and we talk about phrasing and a few other things we talk about today. You find them in this ebook here. Okay, makes sense. You just got a link down here, musictheoryforguitar.com/pentatonic-guitar.html. Okay, and I find a link, of course, in the description, and put your email and the ebook will be sent to you immediately. Okay, completely free, no string attached. Fantastic. Let me take James back in. So James, thank you for coming today. I knew it was a good idea to call you as improvisation specialist. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me, Tommaso. It was a real pleasure. Always great to talk to you.
The pleasure was all mine, believe me. Okay, guys. Thank you for coming at this music theory talk today. Glad for you guys all made it. Thank you for all the comment and all the everything you've wrote. Okay, I wish you had more time to fill a few more questions, but we really don't. Okay, but I'm gonna take some of those. I'm gonna take some of those comments and maybe make videos about that. Or maybe the next time we meet each other, we could do another video about that and answer a few of those questions. Until next time, guys. Thank you for coming and enjoy.